Hi, thanks for tuning in. This is a weekend review for the week ending July 7th, 2023. Q2 is in the books. We're looking at a quarterly chart of the S&P 500. It's time to do some quarterly review. But before we do that, I'm going to take a look at the intermarket analysis, the high-level macro view that drives the asset allocation. Hopefully this makes a little bit of sense. Right now, we're looking at a pair chart of the S&P 500 versus cash or UUP. And what we see here is this chart is telling us that it is favoring equities over cash, and it has been doing so since November 1, 2022. It backtested and held the 200 and is now marching higher, and momentum is suggesting that this trend continues for some time. Equities versus bonds is still favoring equities and has been doing so since the March 2020 low. Was that a secular top in bonds? I think so. Momentum is telling you that this will continue for some time and hasn't even reached overbought yet. So as we look at bonds a little bit later, you'll see that bonds are breaking down right now, and you'll see that equities are to some degree breaking out. And that is what will continue to drive this ratio to prefer equities over bonds. Equities over commodities, DBC, this is still favoring equities, and it has been doing so since December 1, 2022. It backtested the 50 and is marching higher to the 200. This is where your next test will be. So keep an eye on commodities. They could get some love here. SPY versus gold, still favoring equities over gold, has been doing so since March 2023, and momentum is now picking up. As you'll see when we look at the gold chart, she had a chance to break out and she didn't. Very interesting in my opinion, and I will pull up the quarterly chart and show you something in gold that I find quite interesting and that no one else is talking about on Twitter. IWM versus QQQ. So before we start this ratio, those first four were all the defensive asset classes. We looked at equities versus bonds, equities versus gold, equities versus the dollar, and equities versus commodities. And all four of them are telling us that we should have our allocations into equities. Okay, so now that we know that equities is the place to be, where should we be allocating? The first half of 2023 was all tech, all SMH, and all QQQ. So taking a look at the IWM versus QQQ pair chart, we see that this trend continues to favor QQQ over IWM and has been doing so since the beginning of really the bottom in October. IYT versus QQQ. This one's a little bit different. Now favoring transports over large cap tech, and has been doing so since May of 2023. And this buy signal, this to me looks like the start of something, not the end. Okay. IYT versus IWM is telling you that IWM sucks. It always has sucked. It always will suck. No one ever wants to participate in small caps. The reality is all the good stocks that make it out of the small cap market cap limitation of whatever 5 billion, they get upgraded and moved out of IWM into one of the larger ETFs. So this just, it always sucks. It's always going to suck. It's just the basket of trash. And we look at it because if they're marking up the basket of trash, it tends to be the late stage cycle of this bull market. They continue to just sell small caps. That's what they've been doing for 5 years, basically. I mean, really 15 years, but the last 5 years, small caps have not moved at all. SMH versus SPY, favoring the semis. As you can see, when the market bottomed here in October, it has made sense just to own SMH. And that has been true for this entire bull market, going back to the lows of 2008, 2009. And SMH versus IYT, very interesting. So that same period where IYT started outperforming QQQ, it also started outperforming SMH. Okay, so of note, this momentum has not rolled yet, but the histogram is at 0, and this PPO could put in a bear cross. This is clearly just a series of higher lows and higher highs. Okay, so for this trend to really change, you'd have to pull back, come back up, set a higher low, and then you'd see that wave 3 lower. Okay, right now, it's still a guess that, like, you could have guessed right here, oh boy, this is the time for transports, and it wasn't. Okay, but we will look at the transports chart, and there is a clear difference this month, the month of July, versus the month of April, and what the chart looks like. So, in summary, what we can conclude is that going back to May and October of last year, tech is still outperforming all other equities, which are outperforming all defensive asset classes. So allocating into something like gold or silver or cash or bonds, going back to October, has been a losing bet. That's it. Okay, so now that we've got that, let's take a look at the quarterly chart. This quarterly chart had its momentum roll over here in Q2 of 2022. However, PPO is still positive, histogram negative. Histogram being negative is not really a good look. So if they're going to flip this, they're going to have to really accelerate higher from here. Zooming into the monthly, you're getting the buy signal. Okay, histogram is positive after being negative since January of 2022. So we are getting above all the moving averages, mean reversion, pullback to the 50 complete, momentum reset to 0, ADX reset to trough, obvious, uptrend as demonstrated by this channel. Buy the dip remains. You had your pullback to the 20, you had your pullback to the 50. No one wanted to buy any of it. Everyone was just thinking short term. No one was thinking monthly, quarterly. Now we're back above all those moving averages and the trend resumes. Very, very easily could set a new all-time high on a lower momentum peak from back here. Who knows at this point? The reality is, what this chart is telling us is that pullbacks this month into 425 are for buying. And in worst case scenario, 416, 417 gets revisited for the month of July. Zooming into the weekly, though, we have a histogram and ADX breaking out, trend mode activated, been activated since the start of June. And as long as they stay above 420, this is a breakout on the weekly chart. Pullbacks to 420 will provide demand, but the reality is the momentum, histogram, and ADX, when all put together with what we're seeing on the monthly and quarterly timeframes, are suggesting that dips into this yellow and orange line get bought. Zooming into the daily, you can see that the momentum has rolled over. And what we are expecting here would be a correction in time that will reset this momentum back to the 0 line. Okay? So that won't take that long. At most, a couple weeks. At most. And what I'm anticipating would be a pullback to the 50, or they just hold this line in the 50, marches up again in the next 2 weeks to touch price. So that's all I've got for SPY. Let's take a look at IWM. Okay, can't get moving, can't do anything, more of the same. If you look at the quarterly chart, has literally done nothing in 5 years. If you look at this point here, this is probably where she's going to pull back to if the bears have their way, and you put in something like that. Now, that being said, why would we talk about the bearish thesis if the bears can't even get below this level of 170, can't get below a rising quarterly 20, and now have recaptured on the quarter EMA 5? Okay, still below SMA 10, which is sitting around 195. So this is just a large consolidation pattern, as you can see here. It really does look like a descending triangle. Let's turn off all the indicators just so you can see the structure. Okay, from where I sit, that was the E wave right here. The breakout level, 191, 199, and 200. Got to get above here to really get going. Again, there's no reason to own anything in here relative to its other ETFs. So, if you want to take a flyer position in some of the leaders here, which we will discuss, that makes sense. But owning this ETF does not make sense. All right, let's look at QQQ. Nothing has changed here. Again, we've got leadership in mega cap tech, as we talked about in the intermarket analysis. Let's look at the quarterly chart. Closed at high on the quarter. 369 was the breakdown candle low. They've closed 369.42 versus 369.31. So, yep, they closed above this high, which is important. Again, this trend is so strong. All they've done is pull back to the 20 on the quarterly, and everyone lost their mind. Like, they forgot that dips into a rising 20 are for buying. I don't know. Either way, we're going to zoom into the monthly. You're going to see that this histogram flipped back here in April. That was your most conservative buy signal right here at 330, 325, and now here she is at 375, 380. All-time highs are what I'm projecting, if not higher. From here, you can have a cup and handle, but the reality is that doesn't have to happen, okay? Does not have to happen. Looking at the weekly, no rolling over, nothing. This is a strong trend that will continue for a long time. Look at what happened back here when momentum peaked. You still were only halfway through the move, okay? We don't even have momentum peaking yet. That's how early we are in this move, and everyone thinks they've missed tech. They've missed the rally, or that the rally's only in tech. Well, it started in tech, that is true, and it has since broadened out. Just like here, daily rolled over. Just like on SPY, daily rolled over. What we're looking for is momentum to reset to this red line, which has been putting in higher lows. Looking for it to even possibly come back to the zero line. All of that would be very healthy. Here was your last corrective pattern on the daily. Now we have one up here. Is this going to be a triangle? Is it going to be a zigzag? Is it going to do something like this? Possibly. Okay. Sentiment right now is at extreme greed. And if you turn on CNBC, all they're talking about is the new bull market in tech. I don't disagree. This could certainly be a new bull market in tech. One thing I want to point out about the Qs is if you go back and just do a simple back test, how many times has PPO gone negative? And you'll see that it's basically only happened twice. All right. And 08 low, all the way back here when the ETF started, 08 lows, and here in December. Okay. And what happened after it flipped negative? So it went negative and then flipped positive. Okay. What about running the back test on that? That's right here. That's this point right here. And that's this point right here. Okay? And each one of those points rallied for 2 years plus before any meaningful pullback. And where are we right now after this thing just generated? We're on month 3. Okay? That's it. So went negative, flipped positive in April. Go run the back test. Go back test that strat. Tell me how it's performed. I've already done it. I'm showing you how it's performed. So you don't have to take my opinion. Go look at what the market's done and tell me, do you think that this is a signal that you should just ignore? Overlay your sentiment. Does anyone want to buy tech, or do they feel like they've already missed it? Oh, go overlay the intermarket analysis that I showed you at the start of this video. Is it telling you that tech is outperforming gold? Is it telling you that tech is outperforming the dollar? It certainly is. And tech is outperforming every other asset class within the S&P 500. Now, for the month of July, June, will that continue? There could be consolidation, right? That daily consolidation could morph into a weekly consolidation, and you could have a period of underperformance. That being said, it's just a dip to be bought. Any dip that you get here, back to this orange or yellow line, is and will continue to be for buying until that trend rolls. Okay, we don't even have the roll part. We don't even have the peak and momentum part. We don't even have the peak in ADX yet. Okay, this is the peak right here. This is the highest the momentum's been. Okay, so just keep an open mind that it's likely to continue. Same thing here in SMH. SMH wants all-time highs. What's the consolidation pattern that you want to see? A nice little cup and handle. Do you have to get a cup and handle? No. I mean, take a look at NVIDIA. No cup and handle. Okay, and NVIDIA is a leader within SMH and QQQ. Okay, looking at SMH, pull back to the 20. Why wouldn't you expect another all-time high? That's how these trends work. It's exactly what you've got. All right, pull back here to 0 line, pull back to 50, TD9 buy setup on the monthly for both SMH and QQQ and NVIDIA, and boom, all-time highs. So to me, this is not rolled at all. The daily has rolled. Yes, okay, this momentum rolled over. It peaked, it's rolled over, it's coming back to 0. This is to be expected and very healthy, right? Last time this happened was right here, and you had a large correction in time. Right here, it's happening again, and sure as heck, what do you got? Another correction in time. We don't have these major pullbacks. Why? The weekly momentum is telling us that the orange and yellow lines are likely to provide a bid. And until the weekly rolls, the monthly isn't going to roll. The quarterly isn't going to roll. Do you understand? These are all quarterly and monthly trends that are enabling you to participate in the weekly and daily dips. Without the quarterly trends, without the monthly trends, there's no dip buying on the weekly. And just because the rollover has happened on the daily does not mean this is a top. It means that it's simply daily consolidation. Don't overthink it. All right, so now that we've seen and talked about how tech is rolling over on the daily, but still the dips should be bought for quite some time, let's take a look at where money could possibly be rotated. So if you look here on the quarterly, ADX hit a trough right as she pulled into the 20, and now she's above all the moving averages. Okay, going back to QQQ, that happened right here, 328. Boom, rallied another 15-20%. Okay, SMH, that happened right here at 121, now at 150. SPY, right here at 411, now at 440. IWM hasn't happened. Okay, IYT, it has happened. This is the rotation thesis. If you go back and watch the last 2 or 3 videos from the last 2 months, you'll find out that this is exactly what we've been looking for. This is right out of Dow theory. It's right from the CMT textbooks. The idea is IYT and IWM must confirm the moves higher in tech, or it's a late stage rally. So you need to have everything participate, i.e., money rotate out of tech and into something else that isn't gold, isn't commodities, isn't bonds, and isn't cash for risk on behavior to continue. If you see a flight to safety, you'd see it in those ratios that we started this video with. We do not see a flight to safety. What we're seeing is IYT now break out of this range. And if you look at the monthly, look at what's happened. Basically nothing in 5 years. This lower high pattern that started here, the top, right? So she topped in May of 2021. When did the Qs top? Right here in December of 2021. Right? What happened? IYT did not confirm the move higher in tech. Okay, so if the Qs go and put in an all-time high and IYT just happens to top right here, then this is the end of this move, and you'll have another large correction take place sometime later at the end of this year. Right now, what we have is a break above the monthly 20, and more specifically, if we look at let's take everything off the chart. You have this high here in May, a low, a lower high, a lower low, a lower high, a lower low, a lower high, higher low. So the first change that we saw was right here in April of this year, and now what has happened? You've broken the downtrend. Okay, I hope this makes sense. This is what we're trying to identify to be objective. The trend of a downtrend has ended, and now you've got a breakout on the monthly. You've got a buy signal on the monthly, right? Just like you had back here, just like you had back here. How long will this go? We have no idea. All you know is this is a change in character. And when you get these change in characters and the sentiment has remained the same. What do I mean by that? Price has gone nowhere since 2018. Okay, look at the appreciation. All of 20% in 5 years. Take SPY. Go back to 2018. Up 55%. All right? That's all from tech. That's not from IYT. It's not from IWM. It's not from... Let's take a look at XLF real quick. Right? What else is in IWM? XLF. Here's 2018. It's not from this. XLF has done nothing. All right? So what I'm pointing out to you is that we have a change in character. We have a buy signal here in IYT. This is of note. Take notice. Who are the leaders? Uber and Dow. Look at what Uber's done since the low in April. Up 50%. Dow from the low in April. Up 55%. Okay. The point is, focus on the momentum here. This is a technical triangle that is broken out. Had the throwback and is now marching higher. Momentum is telling us what? Any pullback to the yellow and orange line will be met with buyers. ADX is saying what? This is a trending market. Yes, you see this no trend environment that's been in place since June, right? This is no trend. This is all a coil. That's broken. Okay, and you look at here, we don't have momentum rolling over. Momentum's only, PPO is only at the 1 and 2 line. Okay, so while you've had momentum roll on QQQ, on SMH, it is not rolled over here in IYT. So this is a rotation candidate, and I just want to go end with IWM. We just don't have that here. We don't. Now maybe it's coming, right? She continues to hold the 200 and she's at this downtrend. Maybe the breakout here in IWM is about to start and she will follow IYT, but we just don't have that yet. So until that happens, we need to prioritize IYT over IWM, but I will say the leader within IWM that I track, OII, is breaking out, is generating a buy signal. So, if this is what is coming, right, another leader within IWM, Crocs. This is as tight as she's been in a very long time. This is weekly consolidation, right? Weekly momentum rolled, reset to zero line. Now is this the start of something new? Monthly is long. Monthly's above all the moving average. So the monthly trend, the quarterly trend are all saying higher prices. And look here, low, high, higher low, higher high, higher low, no overlap in structure. Why wouldn't you project a higher high again? It's certainly what's on the table. Now you do have an outside quarter on Crocs. Zoom in, still sitting at a rising 10. Why are we finding a bid here? That's what momentum is suggesting. Now if the chart rolls, this will change. The histogram will flip negative and this will put in a bear cross. But until that happens, what you are seeing is a buy the dip here on Crocs, and what you're seeing is a breakout here on OII. And these all are quarterly trends that are pushing price higher, and what you found is they are leading IWM. Now, we don't have a breakout in IWM. We don't. We have a breakout in IYT, and that's about all I've got. So I'll take a look at the defensive assets real quick. TLT, this is breaking down. This is a ABC structure into a declining 50. Histogram rolls, never gets positive. ADX never gets off the trough, and new lows come. If you look at the quarter, this is a quarterly trend. This quarterly EMA 5, SMA 10 bear cross happened here at Q2 2021. Never looked back. There's no reason to touch this until she can get above the yellow line on the quarterly. I don't care what the intermarket analysis says. Until she can get above this yellow line, it is highly likely that bonds are not to be owned. Gold, on the other hand, what's happening here? Okay, is this 3 lower highs? 193, 194, right? 191. It certainly could be. Okay, and the low of last quarter was 175, and we're here at 176 already. The monthly, though, saying buy the dip at 174. The weekly is saying sell every rally. Where? Sell at 179, 180, 181. Until what? Until price can get back to the 50, back to this gap fill. Zoom into the daily. Date with the 200, and this gap fill seem very likely. So gold's certainly one that could play a flight to safety role, not bonds. And if you look at UUP, monthly has rolled. So I fully expect something like this to take place before we see any change in the dollar. And if that happens, you will have Bitcoin and some of these others be beneficiaries. Now you look at the Bitcoin chart. I know we're a little long in the tooth, but I haven't done one of these videos in 3 weeks, and a lot has happened. Bitcoin monthly could be firing a buy signal right here. Okay, we need that histogram to be positive before we're sure. We need it to hold this 28,000 level this month. Looking at the quarterly, it's very, you can't really tell. There's no trend. Nothing's happened. Going into the weekly, you can see that she's rolled over and now back at the top of this range. All right. So again, holding the 200 is very positive. This closed below for one week and then instantly recaptured. Very positive. This is a bull flag. That's all very positive. Daily momentum has rolled though. Okay, so she's going to have to pull back again to this general area and hold the $28,000 level before she can march higher. I mean, she's out of time and space on this chart. And so what I will bring up, and I will end on this, one of my favorite little, are things breaking out or not test is pull up the Bollinger Bands, see if they're closing above or below the weekly bands. Now, the last time this thing closed above the weekly band, it was the top, all right? And Riot rallied a ton. If you look at the monthly here, Riot is putting in a buy signal. She did last month. And now that means basically we're targeting $20, the top of this band. Look at the quarterly though. This is a strong downtrend on the quarter, and really there's no way she gets above 21 is what this quarterly chart is telling me. That could change. Again, I get it. It all depends on what Bitcoin does. That being said, we've got the weekly breakout signal here, but zooming into the daily, I mean, this thing in 2 days is up 21%. So as long as she can hold 1443, this is a breakout. That's one level I'll be watching to start the week, and one name I'll be watching to start the week. Another name, Carvana, a little bit less confident. Daily still rolled, but has not gotten to the zero line yet, is only at 20. It's a little bit far from mean for me, but the weekly is still above the top of the bands here. Okay, this is a breakout. But what I will say, a little bit of caution here. But if she can clear this $30 level, she could certainly get to 45. But that's probably it. A declining 80 should provide some demand. This weekly momentum, though, hasn't peaked yet. Okay? But again, you start with the quarterly chart. What's the quarterly chart saying? This is in a downtrend. She's coming off all-time lows at $3 and is at 30. Already rallied 1,000%. Got to be a little careful. The monthly, again, below a declining 20. And where's the 5? Where's the yellow? All the way down here at 20. Where's she? Right in the middle of the two. Not exactly a good entry, but using the weekly breakout rules, hold 26, hold 24, and this thing could continue to march higher. Daily, though, is saying, hey, this is a triangle, A, B, C, D, E. That's an ascending triangle. You probably got one more move higher. And, if we were to do something symmetrical, right, she could probably go up to that 40 level, and that be it before a major pullback. Okay, so kind of in between, and we don't have this look here, which is the look I like to see when making purchases. I need to see the daily a little bit closer to zero. But it's a breakout, so if you play the breakout, recognize that 3 out of 4 of them fail. But the ones that work are the ones that pay for all the losers. And I'll wrap up with OII, who I believe is much closer to mean. Looking at the monthly, you have a clear uptrend. ADX is above 25. PPO is at 12. Looking at the quarterly, histogram is now putting in a new high quarter. Again, what does this mean? Any pullbacks to 18 are gifts. And zooming in to the monthly, you'll see the same thing. Any pullback to 18 is a gift. Zooming into the weekly, you see a large consolidation pattern, a close above the top of the weekly band, and a potential new 52-week high for this name. Daily, obviously, we're a little bit closer to zero. Like I was saying, why I did not like Carvana. This thing just flipped into the positive range right here. So any pullback into this zone, again, that 1820 to $19 is a gift. I doubt it's given based on Friday's price action. I think this thing is marching to set a new high. And the problem with chasing that high is that there were sellers here last time. There's likely sellers here again. Okay, so what does that mean? You're going to need to see price pull back to this yellow line, which is at 1964, before you're given another entry chance. And NVIDIA, my lead horse in this race, quarterly set a new all-time high. Monthly screaming higher, screaming dips into this yellow line, get bought. That yellow line's at 360. NVIDIA 360 this month is the buy. Weekly has not rolled yet, but could be rolling very soon. Histogram is waning. ADX has somewhat peaked, so it's entirely possible that the next high you get here will start some weekly correction, which will enable new money to get into this name. There has been no weekly correction on this name since December of last year. This is the trend you're riding. This was the breakout no one wanted to buy. And she's continued to say, just hold. There's no reason to sell yet. Daily has rolled over. And what are you expecting? PPO to get back to zero. And this blue line. So that's all I've got. I know this one's a little bit longer than normal, but I just wanted to give everyone a little bit more info this week. In summary, you still want to own, you're playing offense, own equities, own tech. It's possible that a rotation into IYT is taking place right now because the chart itself is breaking out and the ratios that we talked about at the beginning are favoring IYT over SMH and over QQQ. Is that the start? I believe it is. It should mean that IWM plays catch up. If it doesn't, that will be a big red flag. And what we would look for is, in that scenario, is a much larger pullback to take place sometime in Q4 of this year. And again, gold is the flight to safety play, not bonds, not cash, not commodities. And of the names that are breaking out, one of them is an IWM leader. One of them is correlated to Bitcoin, and Carvana, a car company, correlated to IYT. So that's all I've got. If you like the content, hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you next week.